Ambassador, sponsor of this event, Sharon Kruma, Honorable Minister Bakari Waibaji, Fatou Jan Senghor, our keynote speaker, ladies and gentlemen and members from the media, thank you so much for being here today as we launch Empower Her Voice, Building Capacities for Change project by the Women Journalist Association of the Gambia. The event is actually very much important to us as it is the first big grant that we have ever received as an association to build the capacities of women in the media, which is very, very much at the heart of the Women Journalist Association of the Gambia. I am Bana Sabali, I'll be serving as the moderator here, and I'm very glad to see a room full of women, and we are talking about women. So without further ado, I will just invite Annette Kamara to give us a project overview and in detail about what this project is about and what we aim to achieve at the end of the day. Ms. Kamara, please, a round of applause.
Official launch of the Empower Her Voice, Building Capacities for Change. This project, funded through the U.S. Embassy Public Diplomacy, is a watershed moment and an intervention of historic importance for Gambia. It speaks volumes about our unwavering commitment, advancing their rights and championing social justice through the media. To keep you up to speed with Women Journalist Association's growth from 2022 to date, it is important to note that the Women Journalist Association have worked with determination to address the unique challenges confronting women in the media. We have pursued this mission with a vision to uplift, train, and empower the country. Today, Empower Her Voice project stands as our largest and most ambitious project ever in the history of women journalism. Arriving at a time when the media's influence shaping the narratives, driving societal change, and advocating for women's rights has never been more critical. We have registered substantial milestones leading to this moment. Chief among these are the ongoing 6-month mentorship program. Currently, 20 passionate women journalists are being guided by seasoned mentors who share their expertise in ethical reporting, content creation, reporting about women, and overcoming the industry's challenge. We have also provided training on the basic news writing and reporting with particular focus on young women in schools and press clubs. We did not only relaunch the Women Journalist Association, but we also adopted a new constitution, this important organization, through the support of Freedom House Gambia, promoting rights and justice. Women Journalist Association has also implemented the Safe Space Project, a community-based initiative designed to provide support and safety for women journalists. By way of reflecting on our challenges, redirect ourselves to creating a community, strengthening the bonds of sisterhood, and more importantly, serving as a platform for growth and empowerment within the media. As an organization, WoJAG embarked on its first ever activity with 25 women journalists by providing them training on reporting on women and children's issues, as well as proposal writing through the GPU Games project with the executive members and other key individuals from the membership. I must pause here to extend a heartfelt thank you to Susan C. Solomon, the former public affairs officer at the U.S. Embassy, Banjo. Her support has been instrumental in our journey, leaving us an indelible mark on women journalists and the progress of Gambian media. Susan, if you're watching, your legacy of support will continue to shine through each of us here. We will strive to make you proud in every endeavor we take. To DCOP, Deputy Chief of Party of Freedom House, the Gambia. Demba Kande, for enduring our never-ending calls and text messages and emails. USAID and promoting rights and justice, your contribution have helped sustain and strengthen our major programs. Our 6 months mentorship program has seen the production of over 80 stories in the first quarter, and I am pleased to report that these will soon be published, while some have been published already. An accomplishment that will serve as a testament to the caliber of women journalists this program has helped nurture. In Deborah's voice, hey Annette, you are all ambitious, and this is not in our budget. You know, under the ethics policy, WoJAG is not qualified to be an implementing partner. You don't have an office space. Well, Deborah, here we are, $15,000 grant from none other than the U.S. Embassy. Banna, can you please tell Denver we are beyond qualified now to be an IB? And of course, WoJAG, in making a giant stride towards empowering women journalists to lead boldly. The Empower Her Voice is a vision for lasting change for us as women journalists. Today, Empower Her Voice presents a wonderful opportunity to equip women journalists with skills, tools, and resources required to advocate for the rights of vulnerable women and girls in the Gambia. This project, covering critical training areas pertinent to reporting gender-based violence, harmful traditional practices, sexual and reproductive health rights, and other challenges, aim to build women journalists into leading advocates for social change, for social justice and equity. By empowering women journalists, we empower our communities and contribute to a society where the voices of women and girls are integral to national building. The Empower Her Voice project seeks to strengthen the capacities of women journalists to break gender stereotype and create a more balanced representation of women and girls in the media. These key initiative objectives include: train women journalists in critical and ethical reporting, gender-sensitive reporting, storytelling, digital media skills to effectively cover FGM and women's rights issues. Increase capacity among women journalists to report ethically and effectively on FGM and women's rights. Provide reporting grants and technical support for women journalists to conduct in-depth investigations and produce impactful stories on SGBV and sexual and reproductive health rights, impact on vulnerable women and girls. Publications of powerful stories that raises awareness, challenges stereotypes, and advocate for policy changes on FGM and women's rights. Establish a platform for advocacy and awareness raising to publish stories from women and women's rights issues through media campaigns, articles, and multimedia content. Engage key stakeholders, including the policymakers, NGOs, and the public in dialogue and action to end FGM and promote women's rights. And that is why we have some National Assembly members amongst our midst. Before I conclude, I wish to place in record that our resolve to establishing an office space for Women Journalist Association of the Gambia space remains strong as ever before. We know it is the stepping stone to becoming an implementing partner for major institutions within the country. To all partners and potential donor agencies, women journalists are here to shatter every glass ceiling in sight. Just watch out for us. This is a call for collective action. As we celebrate this groundbreaking initiative, we must also embrace our collective responsibilities The fight for gender equity, dignity, and respect for all Gambians demands our unidentified voices and relentless actions. Today, we reaffirm our commitment to standing in solidarity with each other and to supporting and empowering every woman who dares to tell her story and challenge the status quo and inspire change. To Ambassador Koma and the esteemed guest, the Minister for Youth and Sports, know that the women journalists are here today. Know that the women journalists here today are more than ready to shatter the glass ceiling. We are not stopping until every door is opened, and every barrier is removed, and every voice is heard. Let us make history together. Let us empower each other, and in doing so, let us empower this nation. This is not a win for Annette, it's a win for Gambian women in the media. It doesn't matter where you are. Thank you very much.
Women Journalist Association, Annette Kamara, the Minister, Honorable Bakari Y. Baje, Minister of Youth and Sports, Honorable Ambassador Sharon Kroma, UNFA Country Representative Dairo Sar, Keynote Speaker Fatou Jani Senghor, Director of Press and Public Relations Auntie Ami Bojang Sisoho, and all other protocols duly and respectfully observed. I am deeply honored and elated to actually be here this morning. On behalf of the Gambia Press Union, I am truly honored to be here with all of you today, standing in solidarity with the Women Journalist Association of the Gambia for the launch of the Empower Her Voice project. This project represents a bold step towards creating a media landscape where women's voices are not only included, but amplified and respected. This goes beyond the ones that report on issues of women, but those that are also being reported on. The Empower Her Voice isn't just about helping women journalists do their jobs. To me, it's more about giving them the support they need to tell the stories that matter. Stories that expose injustice, challenge harmful practices like FGM, and fight for the rights of vulnerable women and girls. By giving these women journalists these tools, backed by the support from the U.S. Embassy, we are sending a clear message that women's perspectives in the media are essential to building a fairer, stronger society. At the Gambia Press Union, we believe that empowering women journalism strengthens us all. Today, we are not just launching a project. We are committing to a future where every story, every issue, and every voice has a place in our media. We are here to encourage each other, to raise each other up, and to ensure that the voices of women and girls in the Gambia are heard. Thank you to the Women Journalist Association for making this vision a reality, and to everyone here who believes in the power of women's voices. Together, I believe we can make a great difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aissatou. And one interesting thing about Aissatou, I would say it. Can I say it, Aissatou? Yeah. So one beautiful thing about Aissatou is when we started off in 2022, that is after 10 years WoJAG has been in existence, we were struggling to have a Congress. Then she was newly the vice president of the Gambia Press Union, and she was like, this is one of the achievements that I should pride myself as the female vice president. And indeed, she did that. She ushered us in, gathered a lot of women journalists, and then they voted a leader who is Annette Kamara and a lot of others who are right here. At this point, I would like to recognize Mr. Madi Jabate, human rights activist, who is with us today. And also we have Sam Sar, who is the editor-in-chief at the Foria newspaper. Also, we have James Baji, the director of training at the Media Academy for Journalism and Communication. So a lot of them are here, and all of them are in support of what the Women Journalist Association is doing. And we are very, very much happy that all of you are here to support. So at this point, given the fact that the entire room is filled with young people, it is very, very much important that we hear from the man that is representing young people. And he is none other than the Minister for Youth and Sports, that is Bakari Y. Baji. He has been with us during the brand launch. He was the one who relaunched WoJAG, and we are very much happy that you are here with us launching a project sponsored by the U.S. Embassy to build the capacity of women. Thank you so much for being here to deliver a statement. Yeah.
Of the WoJAG and the Secretary, and so the invited guest here, we have our auntie here, Auntie Ami Bojang, the Director of Press and Public Relations at the Office of the President. We have our sister, Rosa, the UNFPA country representative, and of course all the other invited guests that are here from both the media and the Gambia Press Union. First, let me say I definitely hate to be waited on, and I think that's what happened today. But you'll have to forgive me. It's for some of us, those of you that are in sports, you know there is our anticipated match in November. And even though we got approval to play here November 15, the CAF still wanted to send an inspector to come and look at what we have, and he's been around. So when they're around, they are also our bosses, kind of, and we all get busy trying to ensure that everything is in place. And that's the essence of, that's the reason for coming a little bit late. But having said that, I just want to really express gratitude and appreciation to WoJAG, Madam Annette and her team for inviting me to be part of this very important launching of your new project. Elated because this is about Women Journalist Association, and somebody would ask, what would a man be doing in such an event? But when I came in, the ambassador said something, that it is important to have the male friends among the women when they do this kind of program. And I think that's the important part. For me, it's about women issues, about gender-based violence, it's about women journalists. And I'm not responsible for that, but I'm Minister of Young People. And I believe that most of these journalists are young. So wherever they are, we have a responsibility to join them. But also I've tasked myself to be an advocate for women issues. And I've done it in the past, and even as minister, I continue to believe in the need to empower women and support them, but also in the need to ensure that we all work together to end cases of gender-based violence in our homes and in our communities. And that is the reason why I always find joy in joining the activity. So today I'm pleased to congratulate the Women Journalist Association of the Gambia, WoJAG, on securing this very significant milestone in their journey as a Women Journalist Association. WoJAG receiving the $15,000 awarded to the association is one of its first project, or one of the biggest projects that the association has secured. And we must appreciate and thank the American Embassy for providing this significant support to this women association, which I believe they deserve because they've been working so hard since the relaunching of the association a few years ago in this very hall that I was also privileged to join. The project, Empower Her Voice, building capacity for change, will equip women journalists with essential skills to lead in amplifying women's rights and standing firmly in the fight against sexual and gender-based violence. This funding will help ensure that women journalists have the tools they need to drive impactful storytelling, advocacy, and reporting. There is no doubt that while we as a country has made improvements in reducing incidents of sexual and gender-based violence, a lot more needs to be done, including raising awareness within our homes and our communities, implementing the existing laws, and documenting our work over time. This is where I believe journalists, including the Women Journalist Association, have a big role to play. Your stories, big or small, human interests, event-based, or actual cases in our community will go a long way in helping us amplify the message of ending violence against women and girls in our communities. As Minister of Youth and Sports, I must underscore the need for greater visibility and representation of women across all sectors, including in the sports industry that I'm privileged to lead, where women achievement and contribution are often underreported. It is essential that we bring women's stories to the forefront, celebrating and supporting their involvement in sports and beyond. And while we write about the achievements, it's also important that we talk about the issues of harassment and sexual-based violence that happens in the sports sector that sometimes is often underreported. I wish to end by congratulating once again the WoJAG executive and its leadership for securing this project, and we hope that at the end of this, the implementation, all of us would be happy to look back and register or celebrate the successes that we've registered during the implementation. But I hope that all of you as members would go beyond the implementation of the project in doing your part to ensure that beyond the implementation, things continue to happen in our work at our various media institutions. Once again, I wish to say, Madam Annette and your executive, congratulations, and we wish you all the best, and you can always count on our support individually, but also as a ministry and as a government of His Excellency President Adama Barrow. Thank you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for always answering.
President of the Women Journalist Association of the Gambia, Annette Camara. My sister, UNFPA, Country Representative, Rose Sarr, back behind the cameras there. Hi, Rose. Media and Communication Law Specialist, Fatu Senghor. Vice President of the Gambia Press Union, Asatu Keita. My colleagues from the U.S. Embassy, and I'm going to mention Freedom House Demba, and I'm going to defend him because he also receives grants from the U.S. Embassy, U.S. government, USAID in particular, under the Promoting Rights and Justice project. And he's done a wonderful job of defending this organization and many others. Thank you, Demba. Distinguished guests, media personalities, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am extremely pleased to be here for the launch of the Women Journalists Association of the Gambia's Empower Her Voice project. Excuse me. A grant of the U.S. Embassy to promote women-led organizations and empowering those who strive for justice and equality. As the former First Lady of the U.S., Michelle Obama, once said, there is no limit to what we as women can accomplish. We know that when a woman strives and reaches her potential, not only that woman, but the community and the nation thrive. Yet, women and girls around the globe and here in the Gambia are hindered from accomplishing their goals and reaching their potential. We know that when women are underrepresented in the media, women's voices are muted. We know that women are less likely to be featured in news stories or featured as experts in news stories. The gender imbalance in the media perpetuates harmful gender stereotypes because there is no one telling stories from a female perspective. We also know that female journalists are too often the targets of sexual harassment, threats, and violence. Despite these challenges, you, the members of the Women Journalist Association of the Gambia, persevere. This is why we support you. The empowerment of women and girls is a top priority for the U.S. government. Through the U.S. Embassy's Here for Her Well-Being campaign, we have taken significant steps to highlight the importance of protecting the rights of women and girls. This campaign underscores our dedication to creating an environment where women and girls can live free from the fear of violence and discrimination. The Empower Her Voice project is one example of the U.S. Embassy's dedication to empowering women. However, it is more than just a project. It is a step toward amplifying the voices of vulnerable women and girls. The Gambia needs voices that highlight the harmful practices, such as female genital mutilation and sexual gender-based violence. The women journalists with the additional skills and tools to effectively report on these critical issues will be empowered to serve as advocates for themselves and vulnerable communities. Over the past nearly 3 years, I have visited communities across the Gambia to see firsthand the everyday realities of Gambian men, women, girls, and boys. During my travels, I have had the privilege of meeting incredible, powerful Gambian women at various walks of lives: teachers, healthcare workers, community activists, journalists, entrepreneurs, students, and more. Their strength, resilience, and determination are exceptional. They're not only the backbone of their families, but also the driving force for positive change in their communities. These women have repeatedly demonstrated, when properly supported, they can achieve amazing outcomes. The U.S. Embassy also has a long history of supporting journalists and media organizations as part of the U.S. government's commitment to freedom of expression and freedom of the press as fundamental pillars of democracy. We understand that empowering journalists, especially those who have faced a difficult past, is essential for building a society where information flows freely and the voices of all citizens are heard. Journalists play a critical role in holding elected officials accountable and ensuring transparency and freedom of expression. Through our grants, we are committed to nurturing a robust, professional, and independent media landscape in the Gambia. Over the years, the U.S. Embassy has trained investigative print and media journalists, empowering them to uncover and report on important stories that matter to the Gambian people. Several Gambian journalists have participated in the Embassy's exchange programs, including the Foreign Press Center reporting tours, the International Visitor Leadership Program, and the Mandela Washington Fellowship. These programs have provided opportunities for professional development and networking, enhancing the skills and perspectives of journalists across the Gambia. In fact, one journalist, Omar Ba, from The Standard, will be reporting from the U.S. on the U.S. election on November 5th. We're very proud that he was one of 15 journalists around the globe selected for this honor by the Foreign Press Center. Through this grant to the Women Journalist Association of the Gambia for the Empower Her Voice project, we are intentionally bringing together these two areas, supporting the empowerment of women and building the capacity of journalists. Maya Angelou, the great African-American writer, activist, poet, wrote, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." The stories of the women of the Gambia, their challenges, their successes must be told, and you, the Gambian women journalists, are best placed to tell these stories. Give Gambian women and girls a voice through Empower Her Voice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, High Excellency, for that solidarity statement. We are very much honored to have this project really funded and that we are able to collectively, but even more important through the media, we are able to tell these stories of FGM, because there is always a danger to a single.
Of the Women Journalist Association of the Gambia, dear Annette and team, Vice President of the GPU, Aisat Wiketa, Honorable Minister of Youth and Sport, Honorable Baji, Your Excellency, Ambassador of the US, sponsor of this event, Sharon Cromer, Director of Press, Ami Bojang Sisoko, Deiro Sar, UNFPA representative, colleagues, seniors, Uncle Sam, colleagues, Demba from Freedom House, Madi, newly established Edward Francis Small Center, journalists, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to be part of this important launch of the project Empower Her Voice, Building Capacities for Change, which is supported by the US. Before I start, I would like maybe to pause and ask around how many of you in the Women Journalist Association are editors in the newsrooms? How many?
We don't have more than 3.
We have 3 in the newsroom. As we all know, editors are the ones who are deciding. I think I should sit there.
Yeah, I think
so, yeah. Let me sit there because the logistics
Yeah.
are guaranteed by all international treaties. But also, in most countries, it is guaranteed by the fundamental law, which is the Constitution. It is a leverage right for the promotion of other rights. As you can see, without freedom of expression, without an independent media, it is unlikely that other human rights will be realized. So freedom of expression, media freedom is a leverage to the realization of other rights. Given the importance of the media, particularly the independent media, people generally call the media the fourth estate. Why is it called the fourth estate? Because it has the power to hold those powerful to account, to enable citizens to know what their government, their leaders are doing on their behalf, but importantly also to help form public opinion and expose violations of human rights. So if the media plays its role in democratic society, it will help to push to advance women's rights and other rights. But for that to happen, the media must operate in an independent manner, independent from pressure, undue pressure, and that the prerequisite for that is the laws. We need to have laws that are conducive for media freedom, laws that will not persecute journalists, laws that will not punish journalists for just covering issues of public interest. Here in the Gambia, we all know that since the change, the space has been opening up. We have more freedom. Those of us who've been working in this area will know that we are coming from really a very dark past and things have improved. But for that to be sustained, for that to really be meaningful, I think the framework must change, because we still have the laws that are draconian, the laws that can be used arbitrarily to arrest journalists, to prosecute them. So if, in actual fact, freedom is, the government is committed to freedom of expression, to media freedom, but is holding back and keeping the laws, I think that is also something that we also need to question. Coming back to our main topic, it is important for the media to be independent, for the media to operate without undue interference. And sometimes when we talk about interference, we generally think of government only. Interference has different facets. Interference can be from religious groups. Sometimes these are very insidious, very, very, very challenging, because it touches at the hearts of our beliefs, the society, and people are more sometimes fearful of their religious leader than their political leaders. And when it comes to women's rights, that pressure has a lot of burden on journalists. The other pressure also that we tend to forget, and sometimes, which is the state capture and the media capture, is that the pressure from advertisers, those who have the resources. Because when the media also is controlled by those who have the resources, they can connive with different political actors or different other interests to really suppress media freedom and editorial independence. And in most cases, women's rights pay the burden. So it is important for the media to espouse principle of equality, non-discrimination, and to ensure that it doesn't perpetuate deliberately or unconsciously bias, stereotype, or discriminatory rhetoric or practices against women. We've seen it a lot in many countries, particularly in the Gambia, where journalists, especially men journalists, are not sensitive about women's rights. They are not aware of the importance of women's rights in development, the importance of women's rights as a cornerstone of democracy. So the way they cover women's rights issues is really, is left to be desired. So it is important, I think, for all of us to look into that. In the country here, due to lack of awareness, as I said, by many, of the importance of gender equality in development and the inadequacy of the regulatory framework, we have regulators but when we look at their performance, I think it's very poor. It's very difficult. It's almost, I've not seen the regulators complaining about the coverage, the discriminatory coverage. The only time that you see the regulator complain about coverage is about political security. But when it comes to discrimination of women, when it comes to some of the other issues, you don't see the regulator come to the fore. And another also element that we've seen more and more is the media, the social media. As we live in an era of convergence where all medias, like the legacy media and new media, are really converging, we've seen a lot of also harassment, abuses on social media when it comes also to women. And these also, they perpetuate hate, discrimination against women, and more, a lot of disinformation and shaming also has been perpetuated. And this affects not only women leaders, but also women who are advocating for women's rights. And a case in point, I think we've all witnessed what happened during the difficult moment where the FGM laws was really, where Parliament wanted to lift and revise the FGM law. We've seen how women activists, women leaders were castigated, were bullied, especially on social media by religious leaders, but also surprisingly by other women and also by men who are supposed really to defend human rights in the name of religion, but also in the name of culture. So these are also the the areas where we've seen women leaders, women journalists, but also activists, suffering in social media. In the recent years, women who dare to speak up are bullied regularly. They're harassed when they address public interest issues. Women defenders, as I mentioned, activists, they are the primary target. Many are pressured to limit their interaction in the media due to the toxic and abusive environment. We've seen many women are withdrawing from the public discourse because they are targeted, their families are targeted, and their private life is also exposed. And that is not only for women activists, but also it affects women journalists as well. This has huge impact on women's rights in general, how women issues are portrayed in the public discourse, and if not really addressed, this will discourage many women to take part in the public debate. We've seen many women leaders, when they confide in safe spaces, you can see the emotions, the struggles they go through, because the harassment, the discrimination they face, and the lack of remedies, to address some of those discriminations, some of those attacks, I think are discouraging many women, from entering politics, many women from just, being part of the public debate. There are many courageous women who are pushing the boundaries, who are working, and I believe we need to encourage them and support them and protect them for their voices to be heard. So supporting the voices, amplifying it, making sure that they speak and participate in the public discourse, I think is important. So this is why I think this project is very important and timely, and I hope that it will usher in a new era. It will open up more possibilities for women journalists, but also for women issues to be discussed in a public debate without hindrance, but also without undue interference and attacks that are not remedies. Obviously, in many countries, we've seen the backlash on women's rights. This is not unique to the Gambia, but I think what we expect from the authorities and all the stakeholders is remedies that are adequate. Remedies in terms of the law, remedies in terms of the mechanism, but ensuring also they are monitored, and also counseling of women and encouragement to ensure that women stick to the public space and participate meaningfully. But when we look at these issues, they are not disconnected with the political issues, Minister. The poor representation of women in the media, including in the public media, is a reflection of how women are considered and seen in the wider society in this country, in public offices, in decision making. How many do we have in our parliament? A handful. How many in cabinets, in local government? You go to the boardrooms. In many instances where we talk about leadership, women play a secondary role, despite, as our ambassador mentioned, their resilience, their contribution, their competence. We've seen women are competent in this country. They are responsible. They are well educated, and they have the experience. But when it comes to leadership position, they are always relegated, to the back. So this initiative again of the Women Journalist Association of the Gambia, Empower Her Voice, Building Capacity for Change, has come at an opportune time. It is hoped that it will trigger more interest and create avenues for journalists to be part of the broader conversation for women's rights. Of course, journalists would defend their rights to speak, to operate freely. But I think as women journalists also, their role is beyond just the protecting the profession, but also to be the ambassadors, the change that they want to see in society, and to take part in the conversation and take all these issues of women's rights in the newsroom and in all the platforms. And that is why it's important that women also push ahead with the support, of course, of all the friends who are supporting women's rights, to make sure that they make it also to the decision making in the newsrooms. Because if you are not where the decisions are made, where the final cut is done, it is very difficult for your stories to be told, your stories to be featured. And I believe that this is also critical that representation of women in the newsroom would have an impact on women's rights in general and also in the fight against harmful practices. We've seen here in this country during the struggle how women played a role in terms of the women politicians. When all the leaders who were in prison, women worked together, led the coalition, supported, all the political parties to come together with one voice. And women were at the forefront. When people were in detention, women lawyers were there fighting, despite all the repression that we've seen, we experience in this country. Women were going to the courts regularly to fight for victims of sexual abuses, for all those detainees, for other human rights activists who were detained. Women were always present in the courts fighting for the rights. And I must say, to the exception of few women, most of the cases on human rights were taken during the struggle by women. And I'm looking at Ami, I'm looking at Mariama, and I think we all know the role women played in ensuring that, they held the fort whilst, the situation was there. The Kalama Revolution, women were at the forefront. But despite all those contributions, after the change, women were nowhere to be seen. The first government, we've seen few women. After that, we descending, really bad. We have few women in government, and we should ask ourselves why. So I think I will leave it at that. But just to show that when it is difficult, women are in the forefront. Women are, journalists are the reporters. They go to the field, they collect the stories, they face all the challenges, including security, physical violence. But when it comes to decision making, their role is just to collect the information. But those who are processing the information, desiccating it, and making sure that they decide what should be in the news are not women. So I think this is also another thing that we've seen in this country, that women are always doing the heavy lifting, but the decisions are taken by others. Another point that I want also to raise is the presence of religion, especially when it comes to women issues. It is very important that we talk about it, because this also continues to really perpetuate the gender stereotypes. And we've seen it with the Constitution. I will not go into a lot of the details, but when we look at the draft as we speak today, it is also of women. I must say that there are some regression. These challenges have great influence on women, and if they are not addressed, and if don't have the courage, women organization, women journalists, don't take these matters to, and if this constitution for goes as it is, because there are other issues that are discussed politically, especially the term limits, there are other, but women's rights. And I believe what is there is a regression of the status quo. So if women journalists don't take up those issues, we may end up regressing if this constitution is passed with amendment that would favor probably politicians, but it will not favor. So we believe also that women journalists should take it up as a matter of, priority, push the politicians to prioritize women issues, make sure that the debate around those provisions on women's rights also are taken to the fore. What we see today also is instead of being a vehicle for the promotion of women's rights in general, the media, especially here in the Gambia, tend to perpetuate inequality in terms of representation, in terms of the content. And this has been documented in cases of violence against women. We've seen in many cases where violence against women happen, the way the media covers it is not sensitive, is not progressive, and is not in favor of women's rights. And also how women are portrayed in general, especially women politicians also. We've seen it in the media, and this is something that we need to correct. Yes, so I believe that these are the key issues in terms of the media, in terms of representation, in terms of the content, but I think this is informed by the broader political and societal, environment, which I think we need to address, because you cannot address women's rights, the role of journalists, the role of the media, especially women journalists, if you isolate it with the broader societal issues that is society, priority. So to put it boldly and bluntly, in this context, yes, we prioritize. I think it will be difficult for others, for stakeholders, to move forward and to address some of these issues in isolation. So I believe that we need to address it holistically, even though this project is important, but I think we need also to look into the broader issues and see how we can really push and also build partnership with other organizations to amplify the voices and ensure that we have an impact. In conclusion, just to reiterate that the media has significant power to transform society and play a crucial role in helping society achieve gender equality. The investment in gender-sensitive and gender-transformative content could be a way to break gender stereotypes, bridge the inequality gap, and address discrimination. Only independent media with competent, committed, and experienced journalists can challenge the traditional and cultural norms and attitude regarding gender perception, both in the content and in the media houses in terms of representation, of course. By imposing and showing women in leadership roles and as experts on a diversity of topics on a daily basis, we can improve the situation. Women journalists of the Gambia have a huge role to play in championing this cause. This could be done through partnership, awareness raising, and importantly, improve human resource capacity. I'm very pleased that we have now a School of Journalists. Many are enrolled in. We have also the program with the GPU. I encourage women journalists and those who are aspiring to be in the profession to continue to train themselves, to specialize so that they can push and get to the decision making where they can make the necessary change in the future. Safety of journalists is also something that we need. Ambassador mentioned issues around violence, sexual violence, around harassment. We need to talk about it. In most media houses, they don't have protocol. When we talk about, recently we were doing a program on sexual harassment in the newsrooms. We've realized that the research is very, very problematic. You've seen the outcome of the research. The sexual harassment is really a major challenge for women journalists in this country. So how to address it? There are few steps that the Gambia Press Union has taken, but I believe that they need to be robustly implemented, and implemented also by independent, and competent individuals who can also protect women, create safe space, and ensure that effective remedies are taken. Because the way also those committees and the process is done, I believe, is lip service to the whole issue. So we need to look into the safety of journalists within the house, within the media houses, but also the safety of journalists, women journalists, in the course of their work, especially with outside actors. We've seen also that there are many cases where journalists also are harassed by political actors and influential people. So these are also areas that we need to talk about and sensitize more, so that women journalists can be safe, can be strong, but also can be confident to do their work and cover the issues that matter to the public. The change we want in terms of respect for women's rights and equality will only come if we change the lens we see women, and if we elect bold transformational leaders who can commit and effect the change. I believe we have a lot of lip service All our leaders will tell us that they're committed to women's rights. Most of the political parties will tell you that they have 30% representation in their policies. Women are represented, but when it comes to election, when it comes to appointment, you don't see those women. So we believe that we need strong, committed, but also transformational leaders who can effect the change and make sure that they prioritize the agenda of women's rights. The media, especially women journalists, can serve as a catalyst for this change. But we must, the change we want to see, by leading and empowering communities with the right information on women's rights. I want to conclude by a quote from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. We ask for justice, we ask for equality, we ask that all the rights, civil and political, that belongs to all citizens be guaranteed to us and to our daughters. Equality is not a favor. Women's right is a human right, and we all need to commit to it if we want our society to develop. We've seen the Gambia made some progress, but when it comes to women's right, I think we are at the bottom, and we need to bring that to the fore. And you journalists have a role to play in sensitizing the communities, but also holding our leaders to account to ensure that not only your rights are respected, but the women's rights in general are protected and respected. I thank you all.
Thank you so much for that detailed speech. Indeed, in all honesty. But one thing that is clear